Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Andrew Harvey, to say a few words about an upcoming pilgrimage that the Wisdom School and Andrew's Institute for Sacred Activism and Transformational Tours based in Australia are putting together to lead a pilgrimage to Mount Kailash in Tibet. In the 10 years that I've been with the university, I don't think we've ever had a pilgrimage of this level of spiritual potency to a site considered sacred by virtually every religious tradition in Asia. We often think of Jerusalem sacred to the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims as a site of sacred power, around which there have been many battles fought and blood shed. But in Asia, we have a site equally sacred to the Chinese and the Indians, the Middle Eastern and the Southeast Asian populations for thousands of years. And it's been a site that has been revered by all, and virtually, as far as anyone knows, not a drop of blood has been shed in the entire time that Mount Kailash has been held sacred. And so as we prepare to embark on this pilgrimage, which will take us first to Kathmandu in Nepal, then to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet and the site of the Portola Palace of the Dalai Lamas, and then overland in Land Rovers to the sacred mountain, where for 23 days we will be together literally on the roof of the world, engaging in a trek that will take us around the sacred mountain. No one has ever climbed the mountain, but thousands, indeed millions of pilgrims for thousands of years, literally since time immemorial, have circumnavigated this sacred mountain. And it's of particular poignancy, I think, for Andrew and I to be part of this pilgrimage. Andrew, because he was born and raised in India. Myself, because I was born literally on the border between Tibet and China and was raised in Taiwan. So we're both sons of Asia and have very long wanted to go there. So this is an opportunity that we're seizing. So I would like to just welcome you, Andrew, to provide your comments on this sacred journey that we're going to be doing together. Then we'll be discussing some of the books that we'll be meditating upon and invite you all to join us. Andrew?
Thank you, Jim. I'm absolutely thrilled that you and I are going to go on this most sacred and most potent of all the pilgrimages on the planet. When I was undergoing my mystical breakthrough in my 30s, I kept a photograph of the diamond-shaped Mount Kailash on my desk, and as my experience grew, that diamond photograph radiated light, and I realized that one of the things that I must do in my life is to go to Kailash and thank Kailash for being so present in my own awakening. I was born in India, and as many of you know, the really deep mystical experiences of my life have happened in India. I've been immersed in the Shaivite tradition, and I took the Bodhisattva vows with Tukse Rinpoche in Ladakh. Why Kailash means everything to me is that Kailash is sacred to the Shaivites. It represents for them the eternal identity of the self, Shiva himself embodied in that radiant rock. And why it's sacred for the Tibetans is that it is, for them, the ultimate symbol of enlightened consciousness. That's the marriage of the wisdom of emptiness and the unconditional compassion that the Dalai Lama now radiates with such splendor through the world. It's also sacred to the shamanic tradition, the burn tradition. And there are shrines all round Kailash, both Shaivite shrines and Tibetan Buddhist shrines and burn shrines. And the place itself has, from all the accounts of the many, many travelers who have gone to it, an enormous power of initiatory intensity. If you want to just have a taste of what Kailash is, go to Lama Govinda's great book, Way of the White Clouds, and read the last pages. I shall never forget reading them on a visit to Ladakh in my late 20s and making a pledge then that before my life was over, I would go to Kailash, because they represent some of the most gorgeous writing on a sacred site I've ever read. Our pilgrimage will be for ourselves, of course, for our own spiritual evolution, but I believe that at this moment of the world's history, a group of devoted pilgrims dedicating themselves to their own transformation, but also dedicating what they feel and experience on the pilgrimage to the healing of the world's soul, can be a most potent and most powerful way, not only of making great changes in our own inner lives, but of really affecting on the subtle levels the life of the world. So I am really on my knees to you all, saying, if you possibly can, come with Jim and I, come and help us fulfill this great dream, and come and permit yourself one of the experiences that could utterly transfigure your life and your understanding of the divine and your understanding of your role in reality. Please come with us. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. It's been organized by my great friend Jeremy Ball, who's been to Kailash himself 6 times and had multiple transformations around that great holy site. And you will be able to experience for yourself why Kailash has been the ultimate symbol of Shiva for the Shaivites, the ultimate sign of enlightened consciousness for the Tibetans, and the ultimate source of power for the shamans who have adored the source for thousands of years before all the other religions got going. So Jim, what are we going to teach? What are you going to teach and explore when we go to Kailash?
Well, it's a profound journey, and the one text that has seized me literally in a way that I don't remember any other book, at least in recent times, seizing me is the Blade Wheel of Mind Reform.
Oh, yes.
A very small little text written originally by a Tibetan Lama called Tisha about 1,000 years ago. And it was used by Robert Thurman in his pilgrimage around Mount Kailash about 30 years ago. And when I read his work with Tad Wise, Circling the Sacred Mountain, which is his account of his pilgrimage.
Magnificent book, yeah.
I was just seized by the Blade Wheel of Mind Reform. And I think the reason for me is that if Kailash represents nothing else, it represents a stark challenge to be utterly ruthless about who we are and how our attachments to ego and our delusions around hatred and greed and envy have distorted our perceptions and therefore the abundance with which we've lived our lives. And as Robert Thurman teaches in his book on his pilgrimage there, Blade Wheel of Mind Reform is designed to strip the pilgrim of all delusions of ego. And I can tell everyone listening to this call, you just need to pick it up and begin to read it. And that is what its impact is on your psyche and soul. And so I think the Blade Wheel of Mind Reform, which you can download on our website at wisdomuniversity.org when you go to the syllabus on our pilgrimage to Kailash, And then I think, as you just indicated, Andrew, the works of Lama Anagarika Govinda, both The Way of the White Cloud, which details his and his wife's journey around that sacred mountain, but also his foundational book, The Foundations of Tibetan Mysticism.
Oh, yeah.
Really been my guides and mentors in my exploration of Tibetan Buddhism. And so we believe that Tibetan Buddhism has a lot to say, not only because of the Dalai Lama and his prominence around the world, but because of the extraordinary capacity that tradition affords every pilgrim with gaining those instrumentalities of ruthless realism as we examine ourselves in relationship to our mortality and in our relationship with our desire, each and every one of us, for enlightenment.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear your explorations on that text. It is perhaps the most devastating and liberating text in the whole Tibetan canon. What I'm going to do is to focus on two texts. First of all, Shantideva's great masterpiece, The Mind of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhicharya Avatara. I've known the Dalai Lama now for 40 years, and this is the text that he celebrates as the supreme text of Tibetan Buddhism, his favorite text. And we will go into it in great detail to help us use our pilgrimage as a way of fashioning our consciousness to the exalted laws and challenges of what it is to be a bodhisattva, someone who, having attained deep union with reality, dedicates everything that he or she is to the service of all sentient beings. There is no text in the world quite so rigorous and quite so resplendent, and it's been my favorite inner companion in my Buddhist studies all these years, and I've had the privilege of receiving teachings on it from His Holiness, from other Tibetan Lamas, which I will share with you. The second text that I'll focus on comes out of my passion for the Shaivite aspect of Hinduism. South India was my birthplace, and I have gone back many times to receive teachings from great hidden Shaivite yogis, and I want now to share what I've received, and I'm going to concentrate on the Shiva Sutras, which were discovered in Kashmir in the 9th century, inscribed on a rock. They're said to have been written by Shiva himself, and they're short, pithy, absolutely elegant, and absolutely fierce statements about our relationship to divine reality, and meditating on them and unpacking them will be a great thrill for me, and I hope a tremendous source of liberated energy and insight for you. What I'm also going to do is to share the greatest Tibetan practices that I've been initiated into. I became a Tibetan Buddhist in my early 30s in Ladakh. I continued to work for Tibetan causes. I co-wrote the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying for the Dalai Lama with Sogyal Rinpoche and Patrick Gaffney. And I have continued to work with several major Tibetan practices in my own practice, because I consider what the Tibetans achieved in their laboratories is a series of practices that work to transform anyone who has the guts and the delight to embrace them. What I'll especially concentrate on is Tonglen, the great practice that Geshe Chekawa invented in the 11th century, which enables you to act on the invisible levels of reality to heal and transform seemingly intractable situations by taking on the suffering that they are causing, dissolving that suffering in the heart space of your open, awakened heart, and returning to the situation or the person the full radiance of your own Buddha nature. For me, this is the ultimate mystical practice. It is my core practice. It's the ultimate mystical practice for sacred activists. I've taught it to activists now all over the planet. And I hope that we'll be able to practice Tonglen, not only for ourselves and not only for each other, but constantly and fervently and deeply and passionately and compassionately for the whole world that is now so desperately in need of the awakened mind heart and its laws being understood by millions of people and enacted in real action all over the planet. So I'm hoping that with Jim's instruction and my instruction, the practices that we will share from the very beginning, and the glory and the power of this most holy of sacred sites, all of us who come on this pilgrimage will taste the depths of our own enlightened nature, be refueled by the beauty of the place and the sacredness of the place, and be reconstituted in our essence in such a way that with whatever time we have left for us, we can pour ourselves out in joyful service to all beings, honoring the true spirit of Kailash and honoring the true need of our desperate and amazing times. So please come with us. I can't imagine anything more wonderful to do for yourself at this moment than to give yourself the present of a pilgrimage which will also be an act of love for the whole planet. And I can't imagine of a more wonderful group of people like to do it with. Jeremy has organized it and is an amazing organizer. Jim has this tremendous rootedness in China and in his own explorations of Asian thought and in his own transformation through the Blade Runner. And I would love to offer you everything that I've been privileged and honored to learn from His Holiness and the great Tibetan masters I've studied under, from the Shaivite masters I've studied under, and from my own deepest experience of the practices. God bless you. Come with us.
Thank you, Andrew. And the one note that I would add is to say that Andrew and I are both in our 60s, and we're taking this pilgrimage to Mount Kailash. And I say that for the simple reason that if there's any of you listening who think, well, you know, this is all the way up to Tibet and in the Himalaya plateau, and we're going to be going to pretty high altitudes, and I'm either too old or I'm not sort of physically fit, please know that the tour has been designed by Jeremy, who's been there a half a dozen times, so that it can accommodate people of all ages and physical capacities. The key characteristic that we seek is a spiritual yearning for growth and development. By going to one of the sacred sites recognized by every Asian religious and spiritual tradition. So we want to welcome you. We want you to know that you'll be taken care of for the 23 days of the tour, and we will together circumnavigate that most holy of mountains and contemplate very deeply the spiritual purification of our souls. So Andrew, I'm really looking forward to being with you on this journey, and welcome everybody to join.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Mani Padme Hum.
Om Mani Padme Hum.